Epigraphy simply means the study of inscriptions, from the Greek verb epigraphein, which means to inscribe. The main purpose of the Epigraphic Survey is to record the inscribed hieroglyphic inscriptions and reliefs and imagery that are carved on the walls of the monuments. Luxor was one of the primary capital cities of ancient Egypt and a center of the worship of the ancient Egyptian god Amun-Ra. There are more well-preserved monuments in Luxor than anywhere else in Egypt today. And that is why Professor James Henry Breasted, the founder of this institute and the founder of our expedition, selected Luxor to be the base of operations for the Epigraphic Survey. Breasted arranged for a field facility to be constructed in order to house our team for the long 6-month field seasons that we have each year. That permanent field facility became known as Chicago House. By the late 1920s, a much larger and more permanent second Chicago House was built, and the new Chicago House is the expedition headquarters that we still use today. Because of the high degree of precision of our epigraphic method, the Epigraphic Survey has gained a reputation for being the best of the best in terms of epigraphic recording and publication.
As a young Egyptologist studying here at the University of Chicago, of course, everybody was very aware of who is at Chicago House, and we looked up tremendously to the professors and the epigraphers who were out there because they were very special people. It's the longest continuously serving expedition in Egypt, which is something to be very, very proud of. And to me, this is kind of tied in with the University of Chicago's commitment to very long-term research projects. There is an understanding that this work is slow and painstaking, very important, and it's important to do it right.
The Epigraphic Survey is one of the flagship projects of the Institute and has been from the founding, producing the core body of knowledge about the ancient pharaonic civilizations of Egypt. That's a core part of the mission of ISAC. But they also provide information that then can be comparative. Within ISAC, we're able to bring this interdisciplinary scholarship that's happening within the Institute, comparing with other civilizations, but also we are able to talk about environmental issues and a lot of other big research that's done in an interdisciplinary scope across the university.
Prior to Breasted's work, photography had not really been used in a systematic way to record inscribed wall reliefs and inscriptions. A photograph by itself is often not sufficient to record all of the information that's on the wall. We use professionally trained artists who have a scientific illustration background. There is a photographic enlargement that is printed. The artist has a copy of it at the wall and then traces over the lines of all the hieroglyphs on the surface of the photograph. Then the photograph itself is bleached away, and what you have is a black and white line drawing of the inscription. We then take blueprinted copies of that black and white line drawing. We give them to an Egyptologist who is knowledgeable about the history of the wall reliefs, the monuments, and the decoration. And those blueprinted copies are taken back to the wall and used to check the artist's drawing again. And that's really the secret of what we call the Chicago House method. We are doing documentation that is so precise that it can stand in place of the original monuments.
The Epigraphic Survey has always published things on a very large and fine scale. And these publications are very expensive. They're very hard to access, particularly for our colleagues in the Middle East that really need these documents, and make them available for free PDF downloads. And this is really our way of making sure that our very important work is disseminated throughout the world. About 4 years ago, I thought, well, somebody should write a history of the Epigraphic Survey, and it turned out to be a very fascinating story.
A big part of the Epigraphic Survey's mission has been not just documentation, but also conservation and preservation of these monuments. And we anticipate that to be a major part of its mission going forward.
We've been a long-term presence in Luxor carrying out our research for a century. And that is very significant. If we complete our documentation process and publish the definitive record of the monument, then at least we have preserved the information that it contained as the deterioration accelerates into the future. We have been working in Luxor for a century, and we're nowhere close to having recorded all of the material, even within the monumental sites that we're usually working. The Epigraphic Survey has made an immense contribution to preserving the inscribed records of ancient Egypt's monuments. And the most important thing that we can do for the next 100 years is to keep doing the same thing.